Hello everyone and welcome to a quick content creator video showing the two different variations that we have of the North Loop. That is the North Loop East and the North Loop West. Now this is a quick video because there's not a lot to these. Everybody probably knows the North Loop and these are basically just two halves of it. So the North Loop East is the eastern half of it. It actually starts in a different place to where the regular North Loop starts. And it's basically just the eastern half of the North Loop. So for those of you who don't know the full North Loop, that's it there. It does have a crossover section through the middle. So you go basically through that middle section twice on a single lap. And it's a very long lap. Whereas obviously the eastern half, the eastern section, only uses that bit once and just continues going around the eastern section. So, both of these variations do actually start pretty much with that long uphill section, and then they basically use the downhill sections as the sort of the final part of the lap. So the North Loop, that's how that sort of was always designed. This middle section that you're watching now, you go through that twice on the regular North Loop, and that basically takes you uphill. So it takes you to the top area, a higher point on the map, and then the sections that are a little bit more twisty are the downhill sections, and that was where the initial idea came from with the North Loop, because the Rockstar verified Nürburgring actually just uses the same sort of roads but in a very different way, and I thought that going downhill on some of the sections was a much better way to do it than what the Nürburgring, the Rockstar verified Nürburgring, does with that. So yeah, these are two very simple variations. Obviously we've had 8 different variations of the Los Santos Grand Prix circuit in the previous 2 videos. If you haven't seen those, check them out, especially the last one, which will be linked at the end of this video, because a lot of people did seem to like the look of the kart track and the rallycross track as well, and the people seem to be happy that the classic version of LSGP has returned as well. So yeah, definitely check those out. But for this video, it is a very quick one, just because there's not a lot to these variations. I've basically just made these variations. They were already there, I'd already made them in the past, but obviously I've updated them for 30 players and next gen and stuff like that. But there isn't a lot to them, They are very simple. It's just each half of the North Loop, and the North Loop just lends itself to be able to do that. There's not a lot to it really. Again, the links to all of my tracks are in the description, so I think it's going to be the 3rd line of the description. The links to every single one of my tracks and all of the platforms that they're on is in that thread. A lot of people still seem to get confused about where to go. Just click that link and it's self-explanatory, just read what's on there. So the next one is the North Loop West. Obviously, the opposite half of the North Loop. We've got the main one there, we've just done the east side, and now we're going to be doing the west side. So this is very similar to the roads used in the Rockstar verified Nürburgring. This uses the same direction, and a lot of tracks around this area obviously use these sets of roads because there isn't a great deal of variation there. But the western half actually starts in exactly the same place as the full North Loop. So the grid is in exactly the same place, and the first few corners are what you would experience on the full version. It's just that once you go through this middle section, instead of taking the left-hand turn that we've just seen in the eastern part, you go a little bit further and take a right-hand turn. So again, it's just the other half of the North Loop. These are perfect if you want a little bit of practice. If you want to practice if you think you're really good at one half of the North Loop but you're not very good at the other half, you can just practice that half. This is the more sort of technical section. It's a little bit more tight. There's a lot more turns in it as well, and it is certainly it is a longer version. Out of the two, the lap times will be longer on this version than on the eastern half, but it allows you to practice whichever one you want. And if you just prefer one half over the other, you can just have races with up to 30 people on there. So you know, it's worth doing. I've got variations of all these different tracks, obviously the 8 different variations of LSGP. I will be bringing in the next few weeks 4 different variations of Olympic Grand Prix and 4 different variations of Blaine County 24 Hours as well. With all these different variations, you know, I might as well have the 2 halves of the North Loop. It just makes sense. Now, a few people do at times ask for reverse tracks of the North Loop. That's not something that I generally like to do, you know. With the way that I go with track design, I don't like to make reverse tracks or go backwards in certain sections on the circuits. I did actually, if you check out GTA Discussion episode 14, I actually explain a little bit more about my whole circuit design philosophy if you haven't seen that already. But yeah, I don't really like to do reverse tracks or anything like that, so we won't be seeing a reverse track of the North Loop. Obviously, you know, people can make their own tracks. I bet one's already been created that's called something completely different, just because the roads are, you know, there's not much variety to the roads around here. But yeah, these are going to be the only 2 variations of the North Loop, and then we'll move on next week with the 4 variations of Olympic Grand Prix, and then we'll finish up with the 4 variations of Blaine County 24 Hours, and then all of those should be available ready for the PC release to just transfer straight over. So let me know down below, obviously, what you thought about these variations. If you haven't seen the original North Loop, or you haven't even tried the original North Loop, you've definitely got to try it. It's one of my best circuits, a really great experience to drive on that track. But yeah, let me know about the different variations. And thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.